Beneath the hollow tree, I never should have gone back to the woods, but something about my hometown always pulled me back, a mix of nostalgia and unfinished business. It had been 15 years since I'd last set foot in the old forest behind our house, where I grew up playing with my childhood friends. But I wasn't here for fond memories. I was here for closure. You see, something had happened in those woods when I was 10. Something none of us could ever explain. My best friend Tommy disappeared. One minute we were playing hide and seek, the next he was gone, vanished without a trace. No one ever found him, not the search parties, not the police. I was the last one to see him, standing near the hollow tree. The hollow tree wasn't like the others in the forest. It was massive, its bark twisted and gnarled, with an opening in its trunk big enough for a child to crawl into. We all stayed away from it, except Tommy. He thought it was cool. Our secret fort, he called it. I never liked it, though. Something about it gave me the creeps, like it was watching us. After Tommy disappeared, I avoided the woods altogether. But now, standing on the edge of that forest as a grown man, I couldn't escape the pull any longer. I needed to know what had happened. The sun was setting as I stepped into the woods, the air thick with the smell of damp earth and pine. Every crunch of leaves beneath my boots made me flinch. Memories came flooding back with each step. Tommy's laugh, the games we used to play, the dares we gave each other. And then, the memory of that last day, Tommy standing by the hollow tree, a mischievous grin on his face. The tree was still there, looming in the twilight. Bigger than I remembered, its twisted branches reaching out like claws. I hadn't seen it in years, but the feeling of dread that washed over me was all too familiar. I approached it slowly, my heart pounding in my chest. I stood in front of the tree for what felt like an eternity, just staring at the dark opening in its trunk. A cold wind whistled through the branches, and for a moment I thought I heard something. A faint sound, like a whisper. "Help me." I froze. My blood turned to ice. That voice, it was Tommy's. It couldn't be, but it was. I heard it again, clearer this time, as if it were coming from inside the tree. "Help me, please." I stepped closer, my legs shaking. The darkness inside the tree seemed to pulse, like it was alive. I shone my flashlight into the hollow, but the light barely penetrated the inky blackness. I crouched down, peering inside. "Tommy?" My voice wavered. The whispers grew louder, more desperate. "Help me!" Against every instinct screaming at me to run, I crawled inside. The hollow was larger than it looked from the outside. The walls lined with roots that seemed to twist and move in the dim light. The further I crawled, the tighter the space became, until I could barely move. But I couldn't stop now. Tommy's voice was so close. Then I felt something brush against my leg. I yanked my leg back, hitting my head on the low ceiling of the hollow. My heart raced as I scrambled for my flashlight, the beam flickering in the cramped space. I pointed it toward my feet and gasped. Bones. Tiny brittle bones half buried in the dirt. My stomach turned as I realized what they were. Child-sized. Tommy's bones. I recoiled, but before I could move, something grabbed my ankle. A cold, clammy hand wrapped around me, pulling me deeper into the hollow. I kicked, trying to free myself, but the grip was too strong. The flashlight fell from my hand and flickered out, plunging me into darkness. I screamed, thrashing as the hand dragged me further into the tree. My hands scraped against the dirt walls, nails breaking as I clawed for anything to hold on to. But the pull was relentless, dragging me deeper and deeper. And then everything stopped. I lay there panting, my heart pounding in my ears. The grip on my ankle was gone. I scrambled to my feet, but I couldn't see anything. It was pitch black. I fumbled for my flashlight, shaking it until the beam flickered back on. That's when I saw them. Eyes, hundreds of them, glowing faintly in the darkness, watching me from the walls, from the ceiling, from every direction. And beneath those eyes, faces, pale, twisted faces, peering out from between the roots. Children's faces, their mouths stretched into silent screams. I stumbled back, my flashlight shaking in my hand. The faces were everywhere, pressing in on me, their eyes unblinking. And then, from the darkness, I heard Tommy's voice again. "Why did you leave me?" The voice wasn't coming from the hollow anymore. It was right behind me. I spun around, and there he was, Tommy, but not the Tommy I remembered. His skin was pale, his eyes hollow, and his clothes were tattered, hanging loosely on his skeletal frame. "You left me here," he whispered, his voice filled with sorrow. "You left us all." I couldn't speak. I couldn't breathe. Tommy's hand reached out, cold and skeletal, grabbing my wrist. "You'll stay with us now," he said, his voice blending with the whispers of the other children. I screamed, pulling away, but it was too late. The roots of the tree began to move, wrapping around my legs, pulling me down into the earth. The faces of the lost children closed in, their eyes gleaming in the darkness. And as I was dragged beneath the hollow tree, I realized the truth. Tommy had never left. He had been waiting all along. And now I would wait with him beneath the hollow tree, forever.